The following video contains spoilers for Higashi, Madoka Magica, and ReZero. Continue at your own discretion. So imagine you just had the shittiest day at work ever. Like, you show up late, they've cut your hours, the customers are all assholes, and then someone beats you to death with a bat in the parking lot. And then you wake up back at the start and you've got to do it all over again. Sometimes you just can't get things right on the first try. It's okay, it happens. Get up, dust yourself off, try again. But the more dire the circumstances, the more crushing the failures, the harder it can be to keep going. Just ask these guys. Stories that involve time loops give audiences the chance to watch this cycle of try, fail, repeat that leads to, one would hope, a happy conclusion. But happy really isn't the word that I would use to describe most time loops, and especially not those in anime. While the lack of Bill Murray or Tom Cruise puts enough of a damper on things as is, time loop animes can be really depressing. So what is it we find so appealing about them? Let's take a look at how time loops in anime work from a narrative standpoint, what they accomplish, and why we keep coming back to them. So just to get a working definition, a time loop is when a character or group of characters is forced or chooses to relive a set period of time over and over until a desired conclusion is reached. Typically, at least one of these characters is cognizant of the fact that they are in a time loop and may or may not be causing it. As for how you display a time loop, there's a few ways to go about it. ReZero is one of the prime examples of a time loop in anime, and it takes a pretty straightforward approach to its structure. We follow Subaru more or less in real time as he advances through his first run of an event, dies horribly, and continues on and on and on until the mystery is solved and everyone is happy, hooray. Despite being a loop, this is a fairly linear progression because we only follow a single character's cognition of events, and that character is aware of the fact that they are trapped in a time loop. So this is narratively a time loop, but structurally no different from any other anime because of its linearity. Because of this, the audience is able to focus on the time loop solely as a narrative device, and not really something that augments their viewing experience. In a similar but slightly different vein is Madoka Magica. Like ReZero, we're for the most part limited to the perspective of one character, Madoka Kaname, and events unfold in real time around her. However, unlike ReZero, Madoka is not the character trapped in a time loop. Here, that character is Homura Akemi, who voluntarily keeps going back in time over and over to save Madoka from some horrendous fate that keeps occurring. So in this one, the time loop is not the plot of the show, it's just the plot of a single supporting character. To put this into perspective, it would be like watching a high fantasy anime only to find out more than halfway through that one of the supporting cast members was actually isekai'd from our world. So in Madoka Magica, we're only experiencing the final loop, the one that breaks the cycle, as a standalone narrative experience rather than seeing everything else that led up to that point. Perhaps the most interesting time loop structure in anime, though, comes in the form of Higashi No Kaninine. Much like Madoka Magica, this show is not stated to be a time loop anime at all. The story of Higurashi revolves around repeating arcs. Each arc has the same setup of a group of kids in a small town trying to uncover a gruesome mystery. However, each repetition of the arcs end very differently. Additionally, while Keiichi Maebara is considered to be the protagonist of the first season, we also inhabit the cognition of a few other characters, so there's not a sole protagonist like there were in ReZero and Madoka Magica. Watching the show for the first time, the repeating arcs feel more like a structural phenomenon than a narrative one. You would most likely believe that the purpose of this structure is to show you multiple sides of a mystery so that you can come to your own conclusions. And that is true to an extent. But towards the end of the last arc, the show drops a bomb on you. This is not an anthology work of disconnected arcs. The whole time it has been a single linear narrative. A time loop. This revelation comes in the form of Keiichi somehow triggering memories from a past loop. So Keiichi must be the one trapped in the cycle, right? Not really, no. In one final twist before season 1 ends, it's revealed that a side character named Rika Furude is the true protagonist of the series, the one who initiated the time loop, and the only one who is actually cognizant of what is going on. Season 2 on follow her as the protagonist until the series' conclusion. These twists place Higurashi somewhere between Madoka Magica and ReZero in terms of structure. Like ReZero, we're presented with a linear progression through a time loop, and like Madoka Magica, it's revealed that a side character is the origin of that time loop. Okay, so we've looked at how time loops are structured and presented. So what do they actually accomplish? Think about playing Dark Souls or Mega Man or whatever other pointlessly difficult game your masochistic brain enjoys. You start a level, you screw up, you die. So you try again, and again, and again. Each time through, you learn something. A new way of getting past an enemy, a new shortcut, an effective strategy for adding every possible waifu to your harem. And this iterative learning process ultimately brings you to a successful conclusion. At a base level, this is the type of satisfaction that we get from watching time loop anime. Much like you playing your game, the protagonist must learn, adapt, and triumph. But with time loop anime, you get something that the games don't offer, and that is character growth. In the process of figuring out why they can't seem to succeed in their respective circumstances, the protagonists in time loop anime are forced to face difficult questions about who they are and how they approach things. You see this manifest in the form of Rika overcoming her depression that's formed by her successive failures, in Subaru learning to stop trying to be a white knight, and in Homina going completely off her rocker the one time things turn out halfway okay, resulting in a cliffhanger that still has not been resolved. But it's cool, I definitely wanted an adaptation of the mobile game instead of a proper conclusion to the story anyway. This growth is the natural result of being forced to fight through constant, crushing failure. Time loops are usually so dark and depressing because, in order for the loop to reset, typically an undesirable end has to be reached. Rem must not be saved, Madoka must turn into a magical girl, Rika's friends must die horribly. These repeated defeats weigh heavily on those involved, and that weight ultimately forces them to grow in order to progress. And I think that that's why we keep coming back to time loops. Yes, it's fun to watch these characters slowly get better at progressing through their respective loops, Edge of Tomorrow style. And yes, there is inherent drama in watching them cope with their failures. But the changes that these circumstances impose on the characters are so much more unique than those that could occur naturally. Failure is usually an ending, so we don't see it that often in anime. Watching the protagonist lose, utterly lose, with no hope, just doesn't happen. Except in time loops, where those losses are just another part of the progression. These protagonists know suffering like no one else, and because of that, they know change like no one else. Be sure to subscribe for more anime-related content, and until next time, I am Spoons, and thank you for watching.